The man in a security outfit told me to shut down my barbecue pit. My brisket was mid-smoke. He claimed I was violating some kind of ambient scent control ordinance. I asked to see his credentials. He waved a flimsy badge that read, Community Oversight Taskforce. That's when a black SUV skidded up my driveway, and federal agents leapt out, pinning him against my woodpile. His buddies bolted. My brisket was fine. His vertebrae weren't. Name's Joel Kenner, former high school chemistry teacher, now easing into retirement in the serene hills of Pinebrook Valley. I'd bought an old log cabin with a big porch, dreaming of lazy Sundays filled with barbecue smoke. My motto, live and let grill, as long as you're outside city limits. The cabin rested on 3 acres of cedar and potential, far enough from town that I heard crickets, not sirens. After decades of supervising teenage science mishaps, retirement was supposed to be about refining my spice rubs, not fielding nonsense about air purity. That's when Clara Maddox entered my life, WA chairwoman and self-anointed neighborhood conduct enforcement chief. Clara was a woman who labeled herself a bylaw visionary, with a personal vendetta against unsanctioned grills. She always wore a headset and seemed to think every shrub belonged under WA inspection. The first time I saw her, she was measuring my fence height with a laser tape while muttering something about municipal alignment protocols. She donned business suits for Saturday WA assemblies and carried a briefcase bursting with pre-filled infraction slips. My smoker was her sworn enemy. My liberty was her nemesis. She especially despised that I once sarcastically proposed we regulate cloud shapes at an HOA meeting. That quip bought me a 15-minute monologue on respecting regulatory frameworks and a formal reprimand in the community newsletter. From that moment, I became her pet project, the renegade neighbor who needed to be realigned. Violation notices began flooding in: improper wood stacking, unsanctioned meat processing, unlawful aroma projection. Each more absurd than the last, complete with citations, subsections, and footnotes on official-looking WA stationery. One even came sealed with wax like it was a royal decree. I started pinning them on my fridge next to my grandson's macaroni art. The irony never failed to make me chuckle. Then came the so-called smoke compliance squad. 3 men in matching windbreakers and eBay-purchased badges ordered me to deconstruct my smoker due to unauthorized combustion. They didn't even know what mesquite was. I told them to beat it. They stood awkwardly, baffled that a 62-year-old retiree wasn't backing down. One kept refreshing his phone while another pretended to write notes on an empty clipboard. A week later, a self-styled community marshal appeared with a cease and desist order on paperhead labeled Pinebrook Oversight Authority. The emblem had an owl holding a gavel, looked like a kindergarten art project. I googled it on the spot. It wasn't real. When I pointed that out, the marshal mumbled about new administrative adjustments and bolted to his dented Honda. Something felt off. These weren't your average WA zealots. The uniforms were too coordinated, the tactics too rehearsed. I phoned an old friend, Tommy Brennan, now an FBI analyst. We used to coach the school debate team together. He owed me for covering his classes during his second honeymoon. When I told him what was going on, he chuckled and said, "Want me to run some tags?" What he found was gold. Clara had established a shell company called Pinebrook Enforcement Solutions, registered to a P.O. box at a strip mall. She roped in her nephews, purchased surplus security uniforms, and began staging patrols to clamp down on non-compliant behavior. Her operation was a legal dumpster fire, complete with counterfeit city seals and bogus ordinance codes. She even built a knockoff website filled with stock images of stern-faced officers. Tommy's tone shifted. This wasn't a petty WA spat anymore, it was federal. One of her fraudulent notices had been mailed across state lines to a seasonal cabin owner in New Hampshire. That crossed into federal offense territory. Tommy's exact words were, "Keep those ribs warm. We're coming in." He'd been stuck sifting through corporate fraud and was itching for something juicy. The FBI descended during my Sunday cookout. I was mid-glaze, brush in hand, when I spotted the fake enforcers skulking near the tree line, armed with laminated, smoke abatement flyers. They'd grown cocky, trespassing on my property now. One even had a home improvement store air meter. Agent Rachel Saunders, built like a powerlifter with the voice of a drill sergeant, didn't waste time. She pointed and roared, "Federal agents, hands up." 2 fled into the woods. The 3rd tripped over my garden gnome and surrendered face first in my mint patch. Watching him weep into my herbs as Saunders recited his rights was a visual I'll treasure forever. A search of Claris' garage unveiled a miniature command center, uniforms, fake IDs, HOA-branded zip ties, and a whiteboard titled, Operation Smokeout. The level of micromanagement was unsettling. She had drafted patrol schedules, infraction quotas, and a leaderboard for offenders. My personal file was an inch thick, complete with surveillance shots of me buying wood chips. Clara protested, claiming it was all interactive community engagement. She didn't stop screeching about her chartered authority, even as agents cuffed her in front of the Pinebrook Ladies Social Club. Their tea party witnessed the entire debacle. I've never seen so many scones hit the ground at once. Her nephews, under pressure, turned into a chorus line of confessions. Each tried to one-up the other, revealing every detail for a better plea bargain. Clara faced charges of impersonating federal officers, document forgery, and unauthorized use of USDA logos. She'd even stamped her notices with a cartoon chicken holding a magnifying glass, which the prosecutor found both hilarious and damning. Best part, my smoker was designated federal evidence, allowing me to keep barbecuing throughout the investigation. Agent Saunders even asked for my recipe, hinting at needing a caterer for her upcoming retirement bash. The court proceedings were quick and relentless. Clara's defense argued she was merely an overenthusiastic volunteer, but the jury wasn't buying. With fake credentials, bogus laws, and an entire digital footprint of incriminating searches, the case was open and shut. Clara's courtroom appearances became increasingly desperate, starting with her signature blazers and ending in a sweater festooned with tiny gavels. Her public defender looked like he'd rather dig ditches than argue this case. The prosecutor, meanwhile, had a field day, showcasing a slideshow of Clara's fraudulent documents, highlighting every doctored seal and watermark. The nephew who ate dirt in my garden became the star witness, eagerly recounting how Aunt Clara promised them $100 per infraction neutralized. He even presented text messages where Clara referred to their patrols with military code names. Judge Ellen Cartwright, a sharp-tongued no-nonsense type, had to silence Clara multiple times when she attempted to object using HOA bylaws. At one point, Clara stood and declared the court had no jurisdiction over a charter-endorsed neighborhood leader. The bailiff calmly guided her back to her seat while she ranted about constitutional subcommittees. In the end, Clara was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison and slapped with a $50,000 fine. Her complexion cycled from crimson to ghostly pale as the sentence was read, eventually landing on a peculiar shade of violet I'd only seen in novelty eggplants. She fainted mid-sentence, sending her legal paperwork fluttering like confetti across the courtroom floor. Her last audible words were a feeble protest that her HOA term wasn't up yet.